Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, executives, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, you name it, in the world of crypto and blockchain all around the world. And I have an amazing guest for you today. I'm really excited about this interview. His name is Rajiv Khemani. He is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Auradine. Rajiv, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Jamil. It's great to be with you, and thanks for inviting me to your show.
You're very welcome. I'm excited about what you're up to, so I'm looking forward to it. So let me kick things off by asking the first question, which I ask everybody. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yes, it is a logical background. I'll give you a quick overview here. I grew up in India, went to IIT in India, came to the US, roughly about 35 years ago, and essentially have a couple of technical degrees, went to Stanford Business School, but have been in Silicon Valley now for 34 years. The year just turned, so I got to keep updating that number. During this period, I have focused on infrastructure-related products, hardware and software. Focus at the infrastructure of the internet. Been extremely fortunate to play a role in shaping the internet as we use it today, the internet mobile technologies, through delivering performance, through delivering scalability, reduced power, and cost to enable deployment across millions of users. Done multiple companies. This is my fourth startup. I'm a serial tech entrepreneur. My first three companies, one was acquired by Intel, one was a company called Cavium, which we took public. The third one, where I was co-founder and CEO, we sold to Marvell. Several successful exits along the way.
Awesome. So you have a new company. It's Auradine, right? So I want to find out what Auradine's all about, including your vision and your mission.
Auradine is a company, and of course, we have built an amazing team and leadership here at Auradine. Our team, certainly in addition to myself, consists of leaders who previously worked at companies like Palo Alto Networks, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, and the like. Our vision is we want to build the infrastructure of the future, similar to what we've done in the past. And that infrastructure of the future has two big elements. Blockchain is one of them, and AI is another. And so we are building that infrastructure, and we want to deliver, again, scalability, security, sustainability across those two technology revolutions.
Awesome. So one of the things that you guys built, I want to go to here first. Bitcoin has occurred over the last 15 years. It's 15 years old, just about, right? And there's been an evolution of the Bitcoin ecosystem. And, can you provide me with what that walkthrough is? And then I want to get into some of the technical equipment that you're building.
Yeah, Bitcoin has come a long, long way, and I think we're just getting started in the Bitcoin world. As we all know, Bitcoin is the first, biggest, and the most stable blockchain that exists out there. It started out after Satoshi's paper in an era where participants were predominantly hobbyists, right? So you could do Bitcoin mining on your laptop, in your home, in your garage, and mine a lot of Bitcoin, and do it profitably at that point in time. The use cases in that period were, again, predominantly hobbyists, but there were several illicit use cases, people using it for things that were probably not the most legal things to do, to put it mildly. So that is an era which we can refer to as Bitcoin 1.0. Bitcoin in the last 5 years or so has evolved from that era to an era where it's being mined in a data center scale, in very large data centers that are co-located next to energy sources, and has become an increasing partner with the energy ecosystem. And of course, it's not profitable to mine Bitcoin in your home anymore, given the cost of electricity is much greater. And so that transition has moved into data center scale mining. I think over the last 5 years, people have a larger number of people have started to recognize it as a store of value, and culminating with the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs recently. And then the phase going forward, or just as the phase that has started, is what we call Bitcoin 3.0, the third phase of the Bitcoin evolution, where Bitcoin is becoming, and there's good intentions all across, to make it a very constructive partner of the energy ecosystem, and not just be a store of value, but also be a store of excess energy. It can be a store of wasted energy. It can capture methane gas coming from landfills and actually help with reducing global warming and carbon emissions. It can co-locate with natural gas, and instead of natural gas getting flared, can shift into bitcoins. The Bitcoin industry is moving very rapidly to use renewable energy sources. So, and it's getting deployed all across the world in a great decentralized fashion. So that's what we refer to as Bitcoin 3.0. At Auradine, we are providing the tools to make that possible, to make the demand response happen. And so we are providing technologies that for Bitcoin 3.0 from the ground up that don't exist in the world today. And that's what we are super excited about.
That goes into my next question, but I'm going to have a follow-up, but I'm going to go into the next question and ask you to talk about, I think there was an announcement that came out that talked about teraflux Bitcoin miners. What are those teraflux Bitcoin miners, and where do they fit into this evolution?
Yeah, so we announced last year our latest line of teraflux miners. These miners use state-of-the-art silicon technology, along with a lot of this innovation in demand response and energy tuning that we include in our products. And so, first of all, these products are the most energy efficient and the highest performing Bitcoin mining systems in the world. We have a family of products that goes from air-cooled systems that run up to 260 terahash per second in the most efficient energy efficiency. We have immersion-cooled systems that we announced, single-phase immersion that go up to 375 terahash per system in a single system. And then we also have in our portfolio dual-phase immersion systems. So very comprehensive portfolio of products. And then the things that really distinguish us, in addition to the fact that we have the best performance and energy efficiency, is the fact that we have this energy tune, where these systems can, in a data center operation, can go up and down in power within seconds as the energy provider requires. And so the idea is that they can shift excess energy to Bitcoin mining when they do have it. And when people and industries need that energy, they can immediately shift that energy back to people. So not only is it the fact that they get better economics than energy providers, they provide greater grid stability, if you will. And so those are some of the things that we are offering as part of this teraflux product line.
Great. So I want to align Bitcoin 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. Your new line is 3.0. Talked about the 1.0 where you did it for people mine from their basement, right? Bitcoin 2.0 was a wide area, right? That's where the value accrued. That's where, it was the Wild West much more than it is now. What did you see has changed from 2.0 to 3.0? What was that line of demarcation, and how did the innovations in technology bring us into the present from that 2.0 phase?
Yeah, Bitcoin 2.0 was a phase where the transition to data center scale mining had happened, okay? And mining was being not just done by people in the basement, but by companies and public companies. Institutional capital started to flow into Bitcoin mining in a meaningful fashion. And there was and is concern about the energy consumption of Bitcoin. What is extremely positive and exciting is the fact that all of the Bitcoin miners want to be more responsible and they want to be more sustainable. So Bitcoin mining started the process of moving towards renewable. And as we know it, greater than 60% of Bitcoin mining is through renewable sources, and that number is increasing. The Bitcoin miners also acknowledge the need to be for demand response. And demand response essentially means that when there's excess energy supply, they can increase the demand. When there's less energy supply available to them, people will reduce it and shift that energy to people and companies that need it. But they didn't have the tools, okay? So the intent was there, but the tools did not exist. And what we did is we kicked off this Bitcoin 3.0 phase by providing people the tools to make Bitcoin 3.0 a reality. And so what has happened is now the miners that want to do it can do it. And that's really what was the demarcation point.
Got it. So I don't usually get into people talking about their book. I don't usually talk about the capital side of things, but you have a really interesting story because you went from zero to this massive company kind of like without the initial heavy capital outlay, right? So how did you accomplish that, and what lessons can other entrepreneurs learn from what you did?
Yeah, building leading edge silicon technology, Jamil, is extremely capital intensive. And, I think that, entrepreneurs trying to build a Bitcoin mining company is it's a hard process. It's not easy. I think the one thing that helped us is the fact that the initial founding team had amazing track record. Some of my co-founders were founders of Palo Alto Networks, which is about $100 billion valuation company. And we've done not just one, but we've done tens of leading edge silicon projects successfully in the past. And so it's I joke about it that it's sometimes building leading edge process chips with some new innovation is like shipping that SpaceX rocket for the first time, and you don't know whether it'll work or not. But it requires tens of millions of dollars to get to that first step. Now we are fortunate that VCs backed us on that team, on that vision, and we were able to raise a lot of capital to get our first product going. And I think we have demonstrated that we can make it happen, right? We executed super fast to bring our product to market. We've shipped product to over a dozen customers. We have really positive feedback. We have executed on the roadmap. So I think to entrepreneurs, what I would say is that certainly track record matters, persistence matters, having a good team matters, building relationship with top quality investors matters. All of those things are critical to get a company off the ground.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. So you mentioned data centers, right? And a lot of companies that are data centers will say that Bitcoin is very capital and energy wasteful, right? I don't see it that way. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin capital centers, Bitcoin energy centers, data centers versus your traditional data centers like Amazon or Alibaba? What makes you more focused on being a responsible partner for the energy ecosystem as opposed to some others?
Well, first of all kinds of data centers, AI data centers, Bitcoin data centers consume energy, okay? I mean, there's even talk about the generative AI explosion consuming a lot of energy. And the basic idea is that these data centers deliver a certain value. And the AI data centers deliver a certain value. The Bitcoin data centers deliver a certain value to the world. And it is all our responsibility to do it in the most sustainable fashion as we can across all kinds of data centers. And I think in the case of Bitcoin data centers, to deliver the value, and the value that Bitcoin data centers deliver is the security and stability of the Bitcoin protocol. It's a protocol that hasn't been hacked, since its inception. That is incredible. I mean, if you look at the money people spend on security, it's incredible. I mean, we as a nation spend, a tremendous amount of money for the security that we get through our Department of Defense and so forth. And a lot of technology companies spend a lot of money on security through the security infrastructure, the cybersecurity infrastructure. So similarly, I look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining providing that level of security and stability to the Bitcoin protocol, which frankly is unmatched at the scale that it is. But we have to make sure that it's sustainable. We have to make sure it's using renewable energy. We have to make sure that we are using it to provide value in terms of stabilizing the grid, which no other data center can do. I mean, you cannot shut off an Amazon data center just because someone else needs that electricity. You can do that with a Bitcoin data center, right? So I actually look at the Bitcoin data center as extremely positive for the world. And again, the regulation and the good intentions of Bitcoin miners will make that happen.
And where do you think that all these new, most recent development in Bitcoin, of course, everybody knows is a US ETF, right? So you have all these companies on Wall Street looking at the monetary side of it. So how do you partner with these Wall Street firms to help drive, positive energy effects of Bitcoin?
We are typically what we do is we work with the Bitcoin mining companies, and we work with increasingly with energy providers who have this wasted energy or unused energy, right? So those are two big groups. We also, in some cases, are partnering with countries or people that are partnering with countries because we see more and more of this mining happening at a country level in countries like Bhutan, Australia, and the like. And so, we don't necessarily partner directly with the ETF providers, but if the ETF providers in the long term want to mine their own Bitcoins, certainly they could be our customers. As you know, mining a Bitcoin is, substantially cheaper than buying a Bitcoin. And so if you want that source of Bitcoin, certainly we are the people that can help you do that.
Getting expensive. So yeah, it's getting expensive to buy it. So we have a halving coming up, right? And I want to ask you about that, how that's going to impact your business, what growth potential opportunities you see from this halving coming up in April. I believe it's April or March. How's that going to impact you, and what do you see as the next cycle?
Yeah, the reality is that when that halving happens, you get half the number of Bitcoins, right? It goes from 900 a day to 450 a day. And just like Bitcoin has been doing over time, energy efficiency becomes even more important. And so the fact that we have the most energy efficient systems, and there's going to be a substantial portion of the currently deployed mining systems that become unprofitable because their energy efficiency is not as good. There's going to be a tremendous amount of replacement market that we should be able to address. There are people, obviously, who are scaling their Bitcoin mining or hash rates that we are working with that are extremely excited about the product that we have. And so we have initial orders and huge demand for these products that we just recently announced, and we will be providing those again to bring the world's energy efficiency for Bitcoin mining to the next level.
I want to talk about that replacement market. I have a theory, could probably be wrong, most likely, but I think that, and goes into your second stack, right, and your background in semiconductors. Does that replacement market? How does that replacement market include future and innovations in AI and AI related semiconductors, and how will that impact the market?
Yeah, I mean, within the Bitcoin data centers, of course, we are already using AI, right? And we are using AI more as a technology, and we use that as a technology to make sure that the systems themselves are learning about the operation, about the climate, about the environment they're in, and configuring themselves to the most optimal point. So that's one aspect of AI. We also have another aspect of AI where the systems are over time learning about what's happening around them, in terms of energy cost, or in terms of transaction fees, or in terms of climate, and then again operating at the most optimal point from an economic point of view. So we use AI within our Bitcoin products. Separately, generative AI is one of the the most explosive growth technologies that we have seen, or but in fact the fastest growing adoption technology. And generative AI also has this similar challenge, which is it's consuming incredible amounts of power and water across the world, and needs this level of innovation. And so what we are looking at is leveraging the talents that we have in the areas of security. What can we do to enable greater security and to enable greater energy efficiency for those specific use cases? And those are some products that we are working on. Haven't publicly announced it, but stay tuned on those.
Okay, got it. So you're using regenerative technology for AI, and your stack includes Bitcoin. So when I think of regenerative AI, I think of predictions, right? And I know Bitcoin so far has been brute force technology, but do you see any potential to be able to merge the AI and the Bitcoin, to use Bitcoin to provide predictive capabilities, or is it mostly aligned with your security and energy efficiency?
I think Bitcoin is extremely stable, right? So it has, one of the attractive things about Bitcoin is that changing that protocol is very hard, right? It requires 51% of the hash rate of the folks to do it. So I think the stability of Bitcoin is a very attractive capability. I don't think AI will change the fundamentals of Bitcoin, but I think you can use AI to make sure Bitcoin is, delivers better economics and better energy efficiency.
Got it. So one of the things I noticed that you were also involved in, actually, I want to go back to this because you might be able to help me here. I don't know if you saw one of the greatest traders, I consider one of the greatest traders, Nancy Pelosi. And she recently made a bet that NVIDIA's price was going to go down. You mentioned this at the beginning, NVIDIA. I'm like, how's the price going to tank when you have all this AI capabilities? What should people know about what is coming down the pipe for AI? What are you guys building? What do you see as your role in that future? And I think she's wrong. What do you think?
I think NVIDIA is an amazing company. It's I know Jensen as well. He's just an amazing founder and entrepreneur. Somebody that actually has gone through a variety of ups and downs. So I really would not bet against Jensen. Now, having said that, in terms of what is happening in the AI space, as we all know the world used to be primarily predictive, and companies like Google search would predict what you were looking for and give you ads, and Facebook would, and so on and so forth. But the world is moving to a lot of generative, so where AI actually generates content for you in some fashion, and that is increasing fast. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, in the past, AI used to be predominantly used by a few large companies under the hood, and we would all talk about it, but none of us had the ability to actually do anything with it. And that has changed in a very big way with ChatGPT, where not just individuals, but companies now can actually do something with AI for their specific application through APIs and OpenAI and Google and so forth. So those have been two big paradigm shifts that have happened in AI. Some of the technology that was built for the first phase of AI is not really applicable, whether it's silicon or software or security. And so there is this disruption actually provides a tremendous opportunity for innovation. So there are some companies that will be able to adapt to this new AI paradigm, but there will be also new companies that come in that take advantage of this disruption and build technologies that were previously not possible to build. And so it's a very exciting time in the AI area. But I would not bet against Jensen. He keeps surprising people, and certainly in the last 1 or 2 years, luck has been on NVIDIA's side.
That's what I thought. So Bitcoin's role in the future of fleet management. You guys talk about a little bit on your website about fleet management. I didn't know Bitcoin had a role in fleet management. Can you get into what your vision is of Bitcoin's role in fleet management and how you guys play a role in that?
Yeah, I mean, fleet management is still an evolving area. If you look at Bitcoin, and if the miners are listening to this podcast, they will resonate with the fact that they have to do a lot of repairs. They have to do turn on and off machines down when they get that text from the energy provider. So it's very manual. It's still kind of, I would say, 80s technology over here being applied to Bitcoin mining, very different than your modern data centers. And so there's an element of telemetry. There's an element of predictive abilities of that fan going to fail or that chip going to fail. There's an element of redundancy in these systems so they don't fail rather than failing based on certain temperatures and whatnot. But all of these capabilities, not one miner at a time, but at a data center scale, right? Across thousands and tens of thousands of miners. And then further, having that dashboard of all of this stuff, that stuff is still in process. And that's where we have done innovation in providing those capabilities at a fleet management level. And then, of course, what we also do is we partner with folks like Foreman, who are existing fleet management providers, to make sure these capabilities can easily plug into their systems as well.
Interesting. One of my first jobs out of grad school was at Ingersoll Rand, and they used to have a company called Thermo King, and where they used to provide refrigeration and cooling and transportation for foods and all kinds of stuff, right? And you wouldn't think of natural, innovations or being responsible partner for energy and efficiency, those two things having something in common. But if you're working with fleet management and you're providing Bitcoin, does Bitcoin have a role in transport and energy in areas that we are not thinking about yet that we should start to think about?
Yeah, I mean, right now I would say that, so one of the projects we are working on is partnering with the Texas A&M University. And Texas A&M University has a close relationship with the grid in Texas, which is ERCOT. And ERCOT actually has a bunch of requirements. that they already use the demand response capabilities of Bitcoin, but they think Bitcoin can do even more. So what I envision going forward is the energy providers will drive the requirements for Bitcoin data centers and vice versa. And there will be things where you can actually plug these into the grid, get much better grid stability. You can get much better grid economics for everybody involved, including consumers. And you can actually make this a much better market. So, for example, there are cases where prices of energy fluctuate. They go very high, or sometimes they go negative, which when I first heard about it, baffled me, because I never get negative energy pricing from my energy provider. But Bitcoin can actually stabilize that and make sure that that's good. And so those are capabilities we are working on in more of a research phase that we will bring.
You said the magic word, and I didn't think about this until just now. I have to ask you. So I saw a video with Tucker Carlson on Twitter or X or whatever, about the grid potentially going down. If the grid does potentially go down in 2024 because of some act of war or something, whatever, what is the future of Bitcoin and AI, and how can we use those tools to keep the grid afloat if something were to, an attack were to happen?
Well, first of all, let's make sure an attack doesn't happen, right? So one of the things that I would say is a vulnerability of Bitcoin mining is the fact that today the supply of Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin is one of the greatest decentralized protocols out there, the supply of Bitcoin is not decentralized. It's centralized. Most of that supply comes from China or Chinese companies. And this is a huge risk. Now, we take, or our miners are taking those equipment from China and attaching it to the US grid. That's a risk. Okay, you're attaching hardware and software that's not US hardware, and so you are making yourself more susceptible to an attack. We don't want that, right? In the telecommunications infrastructure, we already did that. We said, look, we want to be careful of Huawei equipment getting plugged into our telecommunication infrastructure. But today we are putting Chinese equipment plugged into the US energy grid infrastructure. And so you don't want that. And again, we are a US company. And so one of the values that we are bringing to market is the fact that we want to drive decentralization of supply of the protocol. And we want to have a strong US provider providing technology that should be plugged to the grid, and that will make the US grid a lot safer.
Sounds good. That sounds right. Yeah. Awesome. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed speaking with you. I have one last question. It's actually probably the easiest one that I've asked you. It's how can people find out more information about you, about Auradine? How can they find out? How can they become a client? How can they get more involved? How can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest way to do that is through our website. We have multiple ways to contact us. Our website is auradine.com, AURADINE.com. We have folks that would be excited to talk, across the mining system, across the energy ecosystem. And then if you want to support us, we also have an initiative that we are calling Invest in Bitcoin America. So people, if they are interested in supporting the US ecosystem, want to invest in us for a short period of time, we have the ability for them to invest in us. And then in addition to our website, we are also out there on Twitter as well as LinkedIn social media channels. And so that's another place where people can find us as well.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Jamil.